You know, when you get to a certain age, you begin to realize that despite all the challenges, life actually is a celebration and should be treated as such. And I suppose this is why, you know, for a good while now, anybody who I have an affinity to that is celebrating their birthday, I try and honor them as best as I can. I can't do it all the time, but I make a big deal of actually letting them know that, hey, I just want to honor you today. And as a result, I definitely keep an eye out for some of the milestone birthdays. And, you know, I played tennis as a boy, and I was taught by this wonderfully diminutive lady by the name of Shirley Brasher. She taught me how to hit the ball, but I was actually taught how to compete and play by the Aussies, including this fella here, Owen Davidson. Owen was a great player in his own right, won a number of Grand Slam mixed doubles titles with the legend that is Billie Jean King. And Davo came into my life when I was a teen, and the old phrase for it, I suppose, would be tough love. You know, he wasn't there to be your friend. He was there to not only teach you in the environment that you were in, but teach you lessons that would hold you in good stead way beyond the experience with him. I remember one of the early days just sort of being there, and he's talking to us all, and, you know, there's a group of kids, we're on the tennis courts, and we're probably just not putting as much of a shift in as we could have. And he says, guys, let me just explain something to you. You know, when you're here, I'm here with you, I'll give you everything I've got. But once I get in my car and go home and I put on the TV and I'm watching Larry King Live or LA Law, you're forgotten. You don't even come into my thought process. So take advantage of what I've got here, and you will really reap the benefits. And he was right, and it was beyond those sort of structured sessions. If he was working at a weekend and he was on duty there at the tennis ranch where I was playing out there in the States, and he saw you on court, he'd come over and say, look, what are you working on? And he'd give you a hand, and he'd stay behind after training and things like that. And like I said, he could be pretty harsh. My brother, who actually did sort of play the tour for a while, is a left-hander like Davo was, like Rod Laver, like a few other sort of real great tennis players, John McEnroe, Jimmy Commons, and all the rest of it. And I remember once he walked past the court and said to my brother, your serve is a disgrace to left-handers. And, you know, you say that kind of thing, somebody either says, well, you know, screw you, Davo, or they get up the next morning and they start working in such a way where Davo would give his nod of approval, and he would never be short of doing that if you did step up to that line. And I think in my case, there was a couple of times we had this sort of a big group chit chat, and some people there and some outsiders, some journalists were sort of saying to him, so Owen, how do you kind of, you know, there's a lot of kids here, you know, how do you get different reactions out of different people? And he says, well, the kids are different. He says, you know, some of them need an arm around their shoulder, and then he looks squarely in my eyes, he says, and some of them need tapping down a peg or two. So like I said, he didn't hesitate in calling you out, but he was radically generous. He would have been 80 years old in October, and just a few days ago I knew he would be 80, so I went and I thought, gosh, I need to make sure I got the date for Davo, because of course he's in the States and I'll need to send it over there. And it turned out that he passed away in May. You know, you go online and you begin to learn a little bit more about it and read the obituary, and Billie Jean King, the great Billie Jean King, said she was heartbroken, and I kind of feel the same way. So I just wanted to share that. I'm going to be sharing a few more sort of bits and pieces here. Number one, to honor a man who just did so much for me, and the fact that I'm still thinking about him and talking to him some 35, 40 plus years later. We've all got a role to play in mentoring a certain somebody. They don't have to be tennis players, they don't have to be athletes, they can just be somebody. And, you know, as nice as it is to always sort of be nice and sweet and roses, sometimes you've got to give them a few home truths though. But I think more than anything else, be present. That's what Davo was. So I just wanted to say, Davo, I'm going to miss you. I want to thank you. God bless you. I know you are playing some great tennis up there on that absolute ultimate center court.